Over 100 million Madden 22 coins have been made throughout the entire year. The squad is loaded. The wallet a little dry. Blades of grass touched. I got no comment. But we're gonna have to go back to where it all started. From August to May, from 0 to 100, I'm gonna walk you through my entire Madden 22 year when it comes to building up my account from start to finish. Separated into 3 stages, I'm gonna be going into full detail on how to properly build up your Madden Ultimate Team account when it comes to principles, concepts, and maybe even a few secrets here and there. Investing, budgeting, squad building, sell times, buy times, this video is gonna include it all. So without further ado, let's get started. Stage 1, also known as Fish. This is going to be your entry level. You're starting from scratch. You got to go from 0 to kind of a foundation point in Madden Ultimate Team. The end goal of this process, to complete this stage, you need to be able to field a competitive team. Now, of course, that's going to differ on kind of the timeline you're at in Madden. Of course, a competitive team for me starting out was like an 83, 84 team. For you guys right now, it's probably a 92, 93 overall team, and then you want to have around 250k to work with. But before we actually get into these steps and kind of the process I took this year to complete this stage, we need to go into the first principle I'm going to be talking about throughout this video, my stance on packs. Spending coins on packs is one of my strictest kind of just rules I just tend to follow for the first few months of Madden. Now, this is probably going to this is for mainly just stage 1 and stage 2. Of course, stage 3, you're going to have coins, so you can spend coins on packs. I don't care. For this first stage, it is vital that you just don't spend coins on packs. You cannot afford the luxury to be wasting 10% of your budget, your bankroll, on a pro fantasy pack. Fluke is not sustainable. You ever wonder why pros don't throw up a jump ball to a deep out elite receiver every single play? Because it's fluky, it's lucky, it's unsustainable, and that is exactly what packs are. So unless you want to be stuck in Madden poverty, I highly suggest you just don't open packs or even invest coins in the rerolls, especially in stage 1. Let me put it this way. Imagine a startup company with a 100k budget, 100k I'd say net worth, goes out and throws 10k on red at the casino. You see how dumb that sounds? Because that's what you're doing when you're opening a pro fantasy pack with 100k and an 82 overall team. If you like opening packs for the excitement, the adrenaline rush when you see that high overall, I don't know, man, go ask out a girl, go skydiving for all I care. You're wasting so many coins and so much time. When I'm opening pro fantasy packs, even now, with over 100 million coins, I'm dead serious. When I open pro fantasy pack and I lose 10k in the pack, the first thing that comes to mind is like, damn, I just wasted an hour of solos I played back in August, or I just wasted 30 minutes of doing sets that I did in January. I know I'm coming off as an overly strict parent, but trust me on this, it's not worth it. So my stance on spending coins on packs, just don't do it. Every single time you lose 10k on a pro fantasy pack, you are setting yourself back another day of solos that you could be eventually moving on, getting in towards investments and the better coin making methods. Just don't open packs. That's all I'm trying to say. You get packs from solos. You might spend money. Do not spend coins on packs. You are just delaying the process of getting as many coins as you want. So back to completing the process, and I'm going to give you 3 simple words. Play the game. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but it's the honest truth. In order to start making coins, well, you need coins to make coins. I know that's cliche. When you start up Ultimate Team, you have to do all the dirty work. That's solos, level grinding, head-to-head objectives. Coin making methods aren't even in our vocabulary yet, because especially in the first few weeks of the games, the only sets I had to do, or the only sets that were available, exchanges, team builder 1s, and eventually superstars 1 and 2, but those sets didn't really matter. So yes, my first week of Ultimate Team solely consisted of me primarily just playing solos, level grinding in order to get end cats from solos, remember that JC Jackson, power passes in order to cheaply build my team. And let's be honest, between you and me, no one enjoys solos, no one wants to play them, which is why it is vital that you grind solos when you're in your honeymoon phase of Ultimate Team, where everything you do is fun and enjoyable. The other thing you need to do during stage 1 is kind of set an end goal that's not in terms of coins or your team. My goal for me was to complete, or to be able to compete in weekend league and try to get top 100. I knew getting top 100 or weekend league in general, getting those good rewards is one of the easiest ways to kind of get a stimmy check, a boost to your ultimate team in the first few weeks. So after I gathered up all my coins, my solo challenge rewards, my power-up passes, I proceeded to put all my coins into my team, as I really didn't have a use for them because I wasn't really even doing any coin methods, any sets. The only thing I was participating in was solos and head-to-head. Let's dive a little bit deeper though into my squad building, because while we're not doing coin making methods, I do heavily focus on buying at the right times, because there is kind of huge buy windows and bad buy windows when it comes to building your team. So starting off during EA Access, I know we're back to EA Access, and this is more of a situational moment where you guys cannot replicate this, of course, at any point throughout the remainder of Madden 22, but during EA Access, and I have been doing this for the past few years, you spend all your coins first 2 days. It's pretty much just what you do when no one has coins and everyone is opening their packs when they first log into EA Access. Everyone is opening packs, they're flooding the cards in the auction chest because they don't have coins. They need coins to buy the players they want. So when they open packs, the market is flooded with a lot of cheap cards, and it's important that you scoop up some of the high-end players in the first few days of EA Access. Then over Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, you're going to want to save up, because as less people open packs, people run out of their 10-hour trial access, cards just aren't going to be listed as often, and you're more just going to be saving up for that huge pre-order kind of market crash. Yes, market crash very early on Monday night. The process then repeats itself again for the next 2 weeks as I kind of just wait, and the market really trends to rise over the first 2 weeks of Madden as people just gather more coins from solos, from level grinding, and then I proceed to spend it all again. About 2 weeks down the line, that first Legend Saturday, I think it's like 6 Legends get released, and the market gets flooded with cards because everyone is opening those first Legend packs, and again, I put all my coins into my team. Here is a screenshot of my offense and eventually my defense as I go into the first weekend league of Madden 22. Big thing to note, top right hand corner, 800 coins. Like I said, I put all my coins into my weekend league team because I know that if I get top 100, I'll be rewarded with about 350k plus worth of value in the rewards. But taking a look at my team, again, power passes and end cats everywhere. You see Devin Hester level reward, Lance Allworth team captain, that Kyle Pitts, Elijah Vera Tucker, end cats from the Rookie Premier program, and every single one of my offensive linemen is either a power-up pass or a player I got through solos like Trent Williams. Defensively, it's going to be more of the same, with the only sellable players on my defense being some D linemen like Danielle Hunter, Jonathan Allen, and Darrell Rivas. You see J.C. Horn, Trayvon Morrig, and Cam Chancellor, Ed Reed. Well, I guess Ed Reed didn't really load on my screen, but Ed Reed, Darrell Rivas were the only 2 players I really bought in terms of coins. I mean, yes, Danielle Hunter and Jonathan Allen, but those guys are lower end. I don't even know if they actually played on my team at the time. But again, the use of end cats, you're gonna have to learn to love end cats when you're first building up your ultimate team, because they will save you so many coins. You want to put coins into the most important positions on your team, being skill positions, meaning safeties, defensive backs, wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. You don't want to have to spend coins on defensive alignment, offensive alignment, especially when you're first starting out, which is why it's important to level grind, solo grind, get that JC Jackson 97 or 97 overall, 87 overall, get that Kwity Paye, which was a Team Builder 1 objective, and then power passes. And when you're seeing Miles Jack, I think Jonathan Allen was just a card, but I mean, my entire offensive line, Wyatt Teller, Tristan Wirfs, those are just power passes. Miles Jack, power pass. I'm not looking to spend any coins that I don't need to on positions that really don't have much impact in the actual gameplay of Madden. So to wrap up stage 1, aka Fish, I did finish in the top 100. I want to say I got top 75. I went like 19-6. You can go watch back my No Money Spent. I pretty much used to post every single one of my weekly games for probably the first 60 episodes, but was able to complete top 100. I got a team that I thought to my caliber was able to be competitive in weekend league. I think it was an 85 or 86 overall team with a lot of end cats, power passes, and of course the high end players. And I had about, I think, 350k after my top 100 rewards to work with. So yes, stage 1 took me about 3 to 4 weeks. I know it's a short time, but there's not that much to talk about. This kind of video portion, stage 1, is going to be significantly shorter than stage 2 and stage 3 because there are not really many coin methods, or any. I didn't do any. It's just playing the game, solos, weekend league, level grinding, doing all the dirty work, during that honeymoon phase, build the foundation of your team. But that is going to be all for stage 1. Stage 2, the shark phase. We have progressed up. You are not a fish anymore. I like to think of you as a shark. You at least have some importance, I'd say, in the Madden ecosystem. You actually have kind of a place in everything with a little bit of some coins and a solid team. But the goal to complete this stage is to continue to field a competitive team, and I'll go into detail about actually a buying process that I use starting this stage. And then it's to have at least 7.5 mil, probably 7.5 to 10 mil to work with. So yes, this is going to be the longest and probably the most difficult stage to get through, and it takes a lot of grinding, putting in that extra work to set yourself up for unlimited coins in the months to follow. Finally, we get into our first coin making method of the year. It's a little nostalgic. Going back, I had to rewatch a lot of my No Money Spent series to kind of get a better understanding of what I actually went through in the first few months of Madden. But the first coin making method we did was a few weeks into Madden 22, and it happened to happen. The Campus Hero 1 method, and no, it is not the 80 plus reroll, but rather the 89 plus Campus Hero reroll. It was a pretty simple, the math made so much sense at the time. You simply just bought 191 overall Reggie Bush, were quick sold for 7,000 trading. In the beginning of the process, or the beginning of the method, it was going for about 300,000 coins, and then with that 7,000 trading that you just got from that Reggie Bush, you would just open ×2 of the 89 overall Campus Hero packs, and the 89 overall players were some of the best players in the game, so the prices were pretty good on them. Like, they went from 180 to like 190 up to 200k, and as well, they would sell very, very fast because they were the most in-demand players at a pretty cheap price per that overall. So you can kind of understand where the profit was coming from. I'd be buying a 91 for 300k. With that 7,000 training, you could buy 2 89 packs at 3,500 piece. And the cards, if you pulled the two worst cards, which would be like Carl Banks or like a center, they'd go for like 180. All right, 360k after tax is still about 330k. I was making 30k on the two worst pulls, and there's also guys like Joey Galloway, Brian Dawkins, Reggie White that went for 200k, where you could be making 50 to 75k on that little batch of two rolls. So yes, that was the first coin making method of the year, and it was quite a good one, man. I turned like 250, 300k into about 1.5 mil. Only lasted about 40 hours, but it kind of goes down. It's a memorable one, man. That first coin making method, have a lot of respect for the Campus Hero program because of that, but let's move on. The next coin making method that came into play after that Campus Hero 1 was the heavyweight reroll version 1. And there was version 2 a little bit down the line, but we're going to focus on version 1. It was the first reroll. I wouldn't really consider it a reroll, being Wildcard Wednesday, right? Like, you're not going to lose a ton of coins if you pull nothing bad, but man, I miss it because it was just something I would just do throughout the week for a few weeks and just make basically guaranteed profit. Like, yes, there's a little bit of risk. If you pull every single bad card every single time, you're going to lose coins. But the basis of the heavyweight reroll, there were 5 players in the pack: Brandon Williams, Roger Saffold, Quentin Spain, Jack Conklin, and Montez Sweat. 3 L's, of course, being Spain, Williams, and Saffold. The pack going for around, I think it was 130k at the time when it first dropped. The 3 L's went for like 125 to 120k. You would lose like 5 to 10k if you pulled them, if you timed the sale right. But Montez Sweat went for 220k, and Jack Conklin went for 185k. So you'd be making 40k after tax on a Conklin and like 50k after tax on a Montez Sweat. The heavyweight method didn't really ever catapult me from 500k, because I did spend some of the coins on the Campus Hero 1, but that didn't really catapult me from 500k to 10 mil. It was just a consistent way to make a little bit of profit, and it actually was pretty fun, right? Pulling, you'd just be, I remember being in a call with my friends, just praying that you would pull it, be Sweat, Conklin, Sweat, Conklin. It's all you want to see on the screen, and you get them pretty frequently, and you just knew every time you pulled them, you'd be making 50 to 60k on that card. It's a classic, man. The first reroll really that I ever used throughout the year, the Madden 22 Heavyweight version 1 reroll. The first type of investment, one of the best types of investments throughout the year, and well, you could only have done it when Team of the Week was actually a thing. Of course, you can't do that right now, but the Team of the Week investing method, and it kind of combined everything when it came to a training investment into what I like to call like an expiration investment, where certain cards are maybe like not being opened in packs anymore and they become kind of scarce in the market. But the Team of the Week investing method, and I actually do think a lot of you guys kind of found my channel through the Team of the Week method because it was a very simple, very fast process. I guess the fastest investment you could ever do. It was a 24-hour investment, which made it awesome. The concept of it was you would buy the highest overall players in the Team of the Week set for that week. So starting out, and this was from week 1 all the way up to week 15, you'd buy, it started out 87 overalls and became 88s, 89s. Now on Tuesday, the Team of the Week packs would get spammed. The Team of the Week players would get flooded on the market. There's also an early bird pack, I think, in the store every single week where you'd guarantee yourself like a high-rated Team of the Week player. I don't really remember because, again, I don't open packs, but people would spam the new exchange sets for the Team of the Week players. And these high overall Team of the Week set pieces would become the cheapest training by a pretty significant amount. I mean, let's say an 87 overall. I remember week 1, Kyler Murray. Right? 87 overalls were going for like 65, 70K. Kyler Murray drops, and I remember him vividly going for 50 to 52K. It was him and Roquan Smith, I do believe. It was like a 15K difference between the cheapest training on Monday going into Tuesday. And at this time, I was doing the heavyweight method, and there was like rising stars coming out and veterans coming out. So training was something that you actually wanted to buy and actually kind of have as use. So all you would do is just simply buy the highest rated player in the afternoon. You kind of have to wait for the packs to kind of get flooded, or the players get flooded on the market. You would just go out and you would buy these cards Tuesday afternoon. It was that simple. You didn't need any snipes. Like, yes, I'd set a price. Like, maybe on your screen right now, you'll see a Deebo Samuel. He would be a base price. He'd be going for like 53, 54K. I'd say, okay, I'm going to buy him for 52 to 50K. The big thing about the Team League method was the more coins you had, the more coins you can make off it. And it was just buying in mass. You weren't trying to get snipes like 10K, 5K snipes. It's just you trying to buy as many as you could because you only had a few hours where the market was at its lowest. And the quick turnaround, which what made this method so good, was following Tuesday, you had Wednesday, Wildcard Wednesday. And in the beginning of the game, Wildcard Wednesday, like the heavyweights, like the rising stars, like the flashbacks, they actually are some of the best cards in the game, which give them an insane demand, and they are able to sell really fast, which gives training a demand. And with these cards being the cheapest training, just off of the rise of training demand from Tuesday to Wednesday, these Team League cards would rise from like 10 to 15%. You'd see cards that you bought, like Kyler Murray, for example, I was buying for 50 and 55K. I think he went up to 65, 70K just literally 12 hours after I bought him. And it was because when that first team of the week kind of dropped out, Rising Stars dropped with it, and Patrick Surtain came out, and Jalen Waddle dropped, Zach Wilson. It was the easiest kind of just like, okay, you just buy training at its cheapest the entire week, right? Entire week, you'd buy Tuesday afternoon, and then Wednesday afternoon, training would be at its highest throughout the week. It was the easy. The other thing too is you have to remember, Team of the Week packs get open on Tuesday, and really after Tuesday, no one opens any more Team of the Week bundles or exchanges. So the first investments, the Team of the Weeks, this is what really catapulted me from, I'd say, the 1.52 mil range to like 5 to 6 mil, because again, you're pretty much, the more coins you could put into this method, you were just getting back 15 to 20% straight profit. A smaller method that I used, and you guys have probably used throughout the year, the gap pack method. I didn't really ever dabble into this too much throughout the year. I just felt like once I got to the point where I was making, you know, substantial coins off of each method, I'm like, do I really want to put that much time into the gap pack method? But the one time I did go into heavy kind of just roles of the gap pack method was going into Team Diamonds, because I wanted to complete the Team Diamond sets, and I knew you need a lot of low golds, a lot of high golds, so I would spam the gap packs. Like for the 2 weeks when I was kind of leading up to Team Diamonds, I was anticipating that Team Diamonds were going to drop, because they didn't drop in the first few weeks of the game. I'm like, they got to come out, and I pretty much would just open like 50 to 100 gap packs every single night for about a 2-week basis leading up to Team Diamonds. I don't think I need to get into much discussion about how gap pack works. It's pretty much guaranteed profit. It's just a slow grind. It's always going to be there. It's going to be a method next year that I'm going to use probably in the beginning of the year, but it's overall not that enjoyable. It's just, now it's not that bad because you can pull some elite players, but back then you would just be pulling silvers and golds, exchanging them, hoping you pull expensive power-ups. There's not too much to talk about with the gap pack method. I didn't use it personally that much, but I did use it leading up to Team Diamonds. Speaking of Team Diamonds, I did complete, now I didn't complete Team Diamonds 2, hell no, because, well, I had a experience with Team Diamonds 1. Yes, when Team Diamonds 1 did drop on Friday, I completed the entire thing, all 32 teams in that first day with the help of my gap packs. The rest I pretty much just bought. I want to say I had about 3 to 4 mil going into Team Diamonds. I put it all in. I sold every single one of the pieces, and I came out with around 750 to 100 million, 750K to about $1 million profit after selling the Dan Marino and his power up. I believe I was one of the first people, probably in the top 15, 20 people to complete him on Xbox. It took me all day. It was actually the only time I never logged into Madden, was the day following Team Diamonds, because I was so exhausted. It actually took me 4 to probably 7 hours of just buying cards in the auction house, putting the cards into the sets. It's something I never, like, yes, the profit was good. I made 750K to $1 million in like 20. I just don't think it was worth it mentally. I was just exhausted, and I didn't want to even play Madden. Like, it's how you get burnt out. It's like just playing too much, and after that, I kind of decided, I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to do that next year. And the thing was, during that actual time, that Friday when the Team Diamonds dropped, the market was in chaos. Like, there were so many ways to make profit. I wish I didn't commit to doing the team, because once you like start and you do like 4 to 5 sets, you're like, all right, let's just get all 32 done. But I regret like not participating. I know there's a lot of superstar exchange sets and a lot of just core elite exchange sets, or just the overall exchange sets that made a lot of people a lot of coins on that Friday, and I regret kind of doing, although the profit was amazing, it just wasn't healthy like at all doing that many sets in a day. But I did make 750k to I think $1 million. I don't know the exact number. I just know I sold Dan Marino for $2 million, and I sold the power up for like I think it was like it was like 750k, but I ended up profiting like 750 to $1 million. The next method we are going to talk about is the Amazon warehouse. I know it's a unique name. I called it the Amazon warehouse method, the Bezos buying. At the time, I think this was in like, I want to say late September, early October. I don't know the exact date when I actually like started to do this, but what it is, and I actually still use this kind of with investing. The concept of it is pretty simple. You're just going to be buying players at trading price. So a lot like investing, where we're buying players at trading price, and throughout kind of just the hours, I'd say, after you buy the cards and throughout the next week, you would periodically just check on these cards' prices, because you don't buy the exact, like buying training. Whenever you buy training as an investment, yes, you want to buy the cheapest training, but it's almost as important to vary your kind of like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't buy 2 cards of all your training. You want to be buying a variety of different cards, because those cards, especially early on in this game, and I bought these at a time, it was when Gridiron Guardians 1 dropped and there wasn't a training reroll. So training crashed when Gridiron Guardians 1 dropped. So it made it to where, and again, I was still doing the heavyweight reroll at the time. So training had a demand, and I would pretty much just sit there. I sat there on Friday, Saturday with my friends, and we would just be buying cards at training value or below that. And then throughout the next couple of days, we would just look to sell these cards when training kind of just rebounded. But we'd sell these cards for way above training, kind of a time where they would just randomly go up in price, because again, they still had value as a standalone card. People still wanted them for their team. They weren't exactly like, a lot of these guys were heavyweight players, legends, flashbacks, and they had use other than just being quick sold for training. So they're players like Ndamukong Suh, for example, I'd buy for 70k and he'd be going for 85k normally. I'm like, okay, I could take the 7.5k profit, but I would kind of just wait, and eventually Ndamukong Suh would maybe go up to 100k, and that's when I'd sell him. And it was a pretty good method. It's not black and white, it's like gray. It's the best way I can describe it. It's a very kind of, you just buying training at its cheapest price. Training kind of goes up a little bit, but you aren't going to sell off that. You're just selling off when the players just randomly spike in price, which is something we're going to get into with investing, because it's the way I make a lot of my coins off investing. But that's the Amazon warehouse method. It's more just a concept of buying players at trading price, a variety of players, and then looking to sell those players off when they just randomly spike in price in the following days and weeks. The last method that I used during the stage 2 shark phase, what I like to call it, is going to be legend sets. It was probably the method alongside Team of the Week that really just took my coin balance from, it was decent, right? Like 2, 3, 4 mil. And I took that baby and put it up to 8, 9, 10 mil. And it was off of 2 players, the backs of 2 players, 2 sets. Still some of the best cards. One of them just got an Ultimate Legend. One is probably going to get an Ultimate Legend in the coming months. Mike Haynes and Jerry Rice. Now, the legend set method is a little more complicated than just simply buying the pieces and doing the sets, because there was a way that I would buy the pieces, or a strategy that I used to buy the pieces at a cheap price. So what I would do is I would just be sitting on the filter. I'd have a Rice or Haynes typed in, and I'd have the prices memorized. And throughout the day, I'd wake up 7:15. I'd set my alarm to on a Saturday morning. I'd throw on College Game Day. I'd throw on college football. And for the next 3 to 4 hours before I actually had to make a video and upload, I would sit there with my friends in a call and just snipe pieces to the Jerry Rice and Mike Haynes sets. And I would complete probably 20 to 30 sets of each Jerry Rice and Mike Haynes per day. And I would be racking in, because again, I would do these sets where I'd be making like 35 to 50k off each set. 'Cause again, I had the prices memorized, and I kind of knew like, yes, I can do this set pretty much at any point of the time, at any point during the day, and I'd say like 15 to 20k. But I kind of wanted a little bit more, and I would know the prices, and anytime a price would come up and it'd be like 2 or 3k less, I would just mass buy these pieces, mass complete these sets. And I'm making these sets and completing them for 35k, 40k profit. And I'm doing them 30 times in a day, because again, Jerry Rice, Mike Haynes, 2 of the best players in the game. They sell pretty much every single minute, as well as the pieces are getting flooded on the market, because the legends are some of the best players and the best packs to open on Saturday for money. I would pretty much just turn out like 1.5 to 2 mil on a Saturday, on a good Saturday, completing 50 Jerry Rices, 50 Mike Haynes. I would probably turn out 1.5 to 2 mil alongside my friends. Next up, we are going to be talking about the team building process during this stage. And this is actually a concept that I used throughout the entire year, starting with stage 2. I couldn't really do it stage 1 because there weren't like specific dates when promos would drop. But this is something I'd like to use, and I try to use it right throughout the entire year. But of course, now when I have all these coins, I don't really care, I'm gonna be honest, but it's called the 2-week budget plan. You've probably heard me talk about this, and if you actually follow my No Money Spent, you would kind of notice this, where the basis of it was you would upgrade your team once every 2 weeks and you would go all out. And I would do this in order to keep building my coin stack in a way where I was adding players to my team, but I wasn't getting in the way of kind of building up my coin stack. And you yourself have probably done this so many times without realizing it, but you make it to where, let's say you make 1,000,000 coins, for example, in a week, 2 weeks, and you go ahead and you go spend that 1,000,000 coins on your team. And that's great and all, but the process of you making that next 1,000,000 is going to take the exact same amount of time as you went from 0 to 1,000,000. Again, you're just going to be repeating that process. You're going to get stuck in that cycle where if you maybe just hold on to, let's say, half of that, you spend 500K in your team and you keep yourself with 500K, well, you could turn that 500K to probably 2.5 mil and make 2 mil in the same amount of time because you had 500K to start with. It brings us really back to kind of the saying that you need coins to make coins. So pretty much from stage 2 on, I would take 2 weeks where my priority was solely making as many coins as I possibly could. And yes, I would buy some players. I remember when Zach Milson dropped, the first gunslinger, I bought him on a Wednesday because he was very important for kind of the meta and for Weekend League. But I would normally, and the normally would land on a Friday, so the market would be down for probably new content, but I would pretty much just go 2 weeks where I would not upgrade my team at all. And then after that 2 weeks came up, I'd probably spend at least, it would be half or less. So if let's say I made 2 mil coins in 2 weeks, I would be required to spend 1,000,000 coins or less. This way, I would constantly keep stacking my bankroll and my budget every single 2 weeks. A quick summary of stage 2 though for me, it really only lasted a month, going from September a little bit into October. Some things you'll notice is I have yet to do a reroll other than the heavyweights as well as investing. The only thing I did was the 24-hour team of the week process where the coins were only gone for less than a day. This stage is going to be where you spend the most time, as I'd say. I played the game the most during this phase. In comparison, that month of September leaking into October is probably equal to the amount of time spent actually trying to make coins as from January up until the end of April. It got to a point though where I had a weekly schedule pretty much where every day I had some type of method to make a consistent coins, pretty much zero risk, right? This was Tuesday team of the weeks, Monday and Thursday I kind of do the heavyweight reroll, Friday I'd be pretty much playing solos because again, you're still playing solos, you're still playing objectives, you're still playing head-to-head in weekly league during this time. Friday I'd pretty much dedicate that time to completing the solos and the objectives from the new content. Saturday I would do the legend sets and the warehouse method, and then for Sunday I'd be watching NFL football. But it just became stage 2. It's the difficult part, man. It kind of, Madden gets stale during this time. It's like the honeymoon phase is over. You don't really want to play solos. You don't want to be doing sets for 5K. And you really got to grind it out because your bankroll and yourself will thank yourself 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months on the line when you can buy whatever player you want in December and January. And you don't have to do any more team builder sets. You don't have to do the team of the year method in January because you put in the time, you put in the work, doing a plethora of different methods. The reason why I kind of went, I'd say the big theme of stage 2 is evolving. You can't get stuck just completing or doing one method or one way of making coins. You have to evolve and try out different ways. Kind of have a toolbox where, yeah, the heavyweight method won't go on forever. And when it ends, well, hey, you got the legend sets and you got gap pack and you have so many different ways to make coins on a consistent weekly basis. You're a coin making machine and it pretty much just stacks. It starts to snowball, especially with the team of the week investing, right? All those coins you make from heavyweights, from legend sets, from warehouse, from solos, from weekend league, you're able to put into that team of the week investing, make 20% back, and it would really snowball, right? I went from, like I said, 250 to 300K, starting with the Campus Hero 1 method, all the way up to around 7.5. I actually think I got up to 10 mil by like going into most feared, and it was off the back of just doing the smaller methods like heavyweight, Campus Hero, legend sets, and then putting those coins that I made into team of the week investing, into just, yeah, team of the week investing. That's going to be all for stage 2. It is the grind of a lifetime. You are going to spend the most time playing the game. It's going to be early hours, late nights of you making coins. But you have to understand, a few months down the line, it's going to all pay off. Let's move on to the final stage, the longest stage in terms of days accoladed. Stage 3. Stage 3, aka the whale phase, finally. But now that we're in stage 3, you are going to have a choice. Well, I had a choice all the way back in October. Normally, once I get a few mil in Madden, I'll either stop playing altogether or I'll slow down on making coins from sets, playing the game, etc. But this year, of course, I had content to make. I wanted to continue to upload, and at that, I wanted to upload more quality videos, take YouTube a little bit more seriously. So I made a decision that while, yes, I still am going to be making coins, I needed to find a way to make coins, but spend less time doing so as I wanted to be a better YouTuber. Which leads us into the word you guys probably have all waited for, investing. So yes, this was my first year actually investing to make coins in Madden. I actually had to teach myself doing so along the way, which became actually quite enjoyable for me. Investing in Madden compared to making sets, sniping, playing the game, your normal coin making methods is about 1/10 of the effort with 10 times the reward. Before we get into the different types of investments, I want to go through one of the most popular things to do in Madden every single year, and that is rerolls. Now, I'm not a super fan of rerolls, and they hardly had any impact in building my stack throughout the year. However, with that being said, there were some very, very good rerolls this year. My top 3 rerolls I made the most profit on this year were probably Free Agency, Bone Nose, and the Ghost of Madden random player, being you get a future guy, a present, or a past player. I pulled a ton of LTD Devontae Adams in those. But my big thing with rerolls is that I actually don't believe any reroll has better odds or juiced odds from one another, other than of course the free agency reroll. What makes a certain reroll profitable and sustainable is when certain overalls or cards in that roll go for significantly above trading value. An example of this would be the draft promo with 95 overalls going for significantly above a 95 overall trading value, or when the Zero Chill 78 plus reroll was out, all those mid-tier overalls that went into the stocking stuffer sets. Because of course, if you pull LTDs out of any roll, you're going to say they're juiced, and of course vice versa. But if you can get a pull that's considered an L and squeeze out extra coins from those, especially if they're the most common overalls, that is when a reroll is good for me and I see an opportunity. But to sum it up, minimizing losses and maximizing W's is the key to rerolls, and really there's not that many throughout the entire year. The first type of investment we're going to be talking about for stage 3 is going to be the one we least use throughout the entire year, and that is power-up investing. The reason I hardly ever use power-up investing is not because I don't like power-ups, but it's because the structure at which the power-ups are put into the game. When investing in a power-up, there are 4 realistic base outcomes from that specific investment. The first being you have a player that gets a set, but then that power-up comes with the return when you complete that set. Next up, you have the player gets an LTD, but the LTD is super expensive and doesn't bring any demand for that power up. The third being the player does not even get an upgrade, and the fourth being a player gets an LTD that's affordable. As you can see, there's only one outcome when it comes to pre-reveal power-up investing that actually returns a profit. So in order to make a pre-reveal power-up investment, you have to predict the exact LTD player, and then you also have to hope that he's very cheap, not being 500k plus. You try to hit on those LTDs that are trading, or not trading this card, quick sell this card, meaning they're under 300,000 coins. Which is why power-up investment, especially pre-reveal, what do I mean by pre-reveal investing? Meaning the cards haven't been revealed via Twitter, so you have to buy them before they actually kind of just like predict who comes out, and there's been very few power-ups, but there are some big ones, like, remember Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts went from what, like probably 5,000 coins all the way up to 300,000 coins. But it's very rare that it happens. It's probably going to happen once or twice throughout the entire year. The one other scenario where power-up investing did make me coins, and that was through either the Blitz promo and the Zero Chill promo, specifically Christmas Day market. For the Blitz promo, they released new power-ups into the game days before the actual Blitz cards were available to the store. If you remember, Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, those types of cards. So in the days leading up to the Blitz cards actually being put into the game, the power-up had very little demand and a cheap price, but it was locked in for a future demand because we knew that their cards were getting upgrades in the next few days. Now, off that info, I bought a combination of Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, Jonnu Smith, and Byron Murphy power-ups. The only card, though, that didn't go up was Byron Murphy, but I do believe that was because his power-up was already in the game, while as Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts, and Jonnu Smith, it was their first elite card the entire year, so their power-ups were only just put into the game. The other situation in which we made coins off power-ups was Christmas, and this one was very, very simple. The main example I'm going to use is Bo Jackson power-up. Now, Bo Jackson power-up was only able to be acquired if you actually bought the Blitz Bo when it was available during the Blitz promo, and that wasn't available anymore. So the combination was, it was a decently rare power-up that went for about 10,000 coins, but the 94 overall Bo Jackson was super expensive, and it was about 450 to 500k prior to that Christmas Day market crash. But as soon as I saw the Blitz extra large give, I knew that Blitz Bo Jackson would crash on a price, giving him way much more of a demand. He's much more obtainable to the common MUT player. Therefore, the power-up would see a spike in demand with no real way of it being matched with the supply of Bo Jackson crashing down in price. The result of this, of course, was power Bo Jackson from about 10k to 90k, and of course, the Blitz Bo Jackson went from 450k all the way down to 150 to 200k. To summarize power-up investing, there's just not that much opportunity throughout the entire year, as well as a lot of the profit when it comes to power-up investing. Like, yeah, there's little profits. Like for Team of the Year, if you invested in the Team of the Year players, that got Team of the Year players. If you invest in their powers, a lot of people didn't do the sets, and their powers kind of went up in price, but it's like, for me, in terms of investing, I want to make a significant profit. So like Bo Jackson was worth it, going from 10K to 90K on his power up, but that was only because we knew that Blitz Bo Jackson was going to crash in price from his Christmas gift, as well as the Blitz power up example was kind of just a mistake from EA releasing the powers early into the game before the actual Blitz players became obtainable to the Madden players. Finally, we are getting into what I call the big three of investing in Madden 22. First up, we're going to talk about currency investing. This is your training investments and your alternate currency investments, like snowflakes, like candy. Typically, currency investments is more short term, with the longest time you're going to be holding a currency investment being maybe, I'd say, 2 weeks max. A little detour though, we're going to talk about a cardinal sin when it comes to currency investing, and that is to never quick sell the card you actually invest in. Because when you invest in, let's say, training, you buy training when the market is down, but of course you can't buy the physical training. You have to buy a player card. That is training price. Now that you have that card, that is a training quick sell. When the day comes along when you think training is going to go up, or you plan on arbitraging your way to profit. Arbitraging, by the way, is a method where, for example, you quick sell a player for training. I'm going to say a 94 overall that you bought for 50,000 coins. You're quick selling for 26K training. Arbitrage is now taking that same training, pulling a 95 overall that sells for 70K, hence you making profit from exchanging one overall at a certain price for the same overall at a higher price. Back to the cardinal sin though, when the day comes around and for whatever reason the role you planned on doing is bad and it's not giving the return that you originally thought, but since you didn't quick sell your player, you can sell him back, and most likely on days where there's something new to roll, training will go up and you can make even just a small profit on your initial investment through whatever card you bought. However, if you did quick sell that player, you are locking yourself into only one outcome, which relies solely on how good the role you are doing. So if it's terrible, well, that's too bad, because you unfortunately quick sold your training investment. Currency investments though, like snowflakes and candy, weren't as profitable as years past because there weren't really many super big swings in terms of up and down when it came to the alternate currencies that were in play this year. Training investments, on the other hand, had huge swings up and down, so we're going to walk through some of the best training investments that were made this year, but it doesn't include Team of the Week investment because that also is kind of a training investment. We're not going to talk about that. The first super big training investment I made this year revolved around the Team of the Year promo. Leading up to Team of the Year, training was at a shockingly low price after the failure of the Campus Hero 2 reroll, combined with an odds boost in early January, made training alarmingly cheap at about 4.5 per on Xbox, and actually it went all the way down to 4. It wasn't too hard to predict a spike back up in training, as if you just looked at the previous year in Madden 21, training was at 8 per on Xbox and PlayStation during the Team of the Year program that year, because there's always Team of the Year rerolls, which gives training a super high demand. So it was a perfect storm when it came to an investment. You had super cheap prices with a guaranteed demand in the coming weeks, with the potential of training going all the way up depending on how good the Team of the Year cards were. Team of the Year rolls around, and shocker, there were Team of the Year rerolls with surprisingly an LTD in them, which made training go all the way back up to 6.5 from 4 per. For a coin comparison, that is a 92 overall going from 40K to 65K, meaning you'd make about 50% return on your initial investment, which was amazing. The other main training investment we profited off this year happened between the Madden Machine promo and the Easter content. Training was mass bought at 2.4 per, the price being so cheap because of the zero demand for training at the time for there being no LTD in the brand new Madden Machine rerolls. This investment, just like Team of the Year, was super safe from the fact that we knew that Easter content was about 2 weeks away, and in order to get eggs, the main kind of part of the Easter content, you needed to turn training into whatever the alternate currency was in order to get the eggs, giving training a solid demand in the coming weeks. The result of this was training going from about 2.4 to 3.2. Of course, that comparison is a 92 overall bought for 24K, sold for 29K after tax, making it about 20% return, which, not as good as Team of the Year, was still solid altogether. To give a general idea of training investments and when to make them, buy when the market is at a super low. I know that's common sense, but only buy really if there is a guaranteed future demand that leaves no uncertainty. Our examples of this, of course, being the Team of the Year reroll we get every single year, and Easter eggs, which you also are guaranteed to get every single year. You can still invest into speculation, as many of you are probably doing right now with the training variety pack, but the best currency investments are the guaranteed demand spike, because, well, then subconsciously you can go all out on that investment with no lingering doubts of it failing. That wraps it up for the currency investments in Madden 22. Let's move on to LTD investing. LTD is the most expensive way of making coins, but actually probably the safest way to make coins when it comes to investing. This is because we have a set date when the supply of a certain LTD is shut off, making it really easy to have a pinpoint buy time as well as a guaranteed rise barring any outside variables that could potentially make that card fall. That being said, we're going to separate the LTD investing into two subsections, being reroll LTDs and normal LTDs. First up, reroll LTDs. The only reroll LTDs I found worth investing in were the ones that were above that minimum price of 280 to 300k. Normally, if an LTD is 280 to 300k, it falls into one of the two categories. Either the card isn't very good, which is why it is so cheap, or the supply of the card is so outrageous, making the card cheap only because the supply outweighs the demand. Some examples of that would be a Derrick Henry quarterback, an Isaiah Simmons out of position, strong safety, and a Randy Moss cornerback. Those are some of the best cards in the game at the time, but because of the rerolls they were involved in, those cards were supplied heavily onto the market. The reason for investing in them was self-explainable, as when the supply stops, the demand for those, since being the best cards in the game, were still really high and hopefully would make the cards return a profit in the coming weeks. This worked for Randy Moss cornerback, but unfortunately for Simmons and Henry, it backfired when a make rights came into play, something out of our control and unpredictable, and it resulted in a pretty big loss on my end, as I bought around 45 Henrys at 300k, eventually selling them back for around 300 to 315k, eating the tax on every card. Luckily for me, I dumped all my Simmons at around 375k days before the make rights, but for Derrick Henry, I probably lost somewhere around 750k to a mil off his make rights. Some other successful reroll LTD investments included Brandon Marshall, most feared, Lamar LT, and Ramsey Sugar Rush, and the biggest successful investment maybe of the entire year when it comes to LTDs, the Ghost LTDs, which we're actually going to dive into a little bit more. The three Ghost LTDs being Davante Adams, Micah Parsons, and Tim Tebow, when they dropped, were three of probably the top 10 players in the entire game, Davante Adams probably being the best receiver. They also had the Ghost Strat card, which made them even better for the time being. The Ghost cards were thrown into the 4 Ghost Madden rerolls, and to me personally, I actually had great luck pulling multiple cards each in that 48-hour window when they were out, but the main coins we made from buying them was on the second day they were in packs. Quick note for all LTD investments, normally the best day to buy them is in the afternoon or the nighttime on the last day they are in rerolls. Quick thing to note. Tim Tebow, I was buying for around 400k, Micah Parsons 425k, and Davante Adams 550, which were pretty reasonable prices for cards that, one, were very good, and two, weren't flying out of the Ghost of Madden rerolls. And on top of that, this was days before the Christmas market crash, so people were very hesitant to scoop these players up, which gave me the ultra green light to go all out when it came to them as investments. We also saw the exact same scenario play out on Easter with the LTDs as they skyrocketed in price, but of course not like the Ghost LTDs. See, when everyone was planning on buying their team Christmas morning, normally no one is going to cheat that process and buy a player a day early. They're going to wait until they do it all at once. And these three cards being very, very good at the time, a lot of people were definitely planning on building their teams around these Ghost LTDs. So the demand for them was probably even higher on Christmas than they were when they actually were released initially into the game, but the supply, of course, was way lower because they weren't in packs. As a result, Tim Tebow went to 550k, Micah Parsons 800k, and Davante Adams all the way up to 900k. With the quantity at which I bought these players at, you can see where the profits are, as they raked in a total of about 6.3 million coins. Profit after tax at about 6 Davante Adams, 11 Tim Tebows, and 14 Micah Parsons. That's reroll LTD investing. Let's now talk about normal LTD investing. This would be something that would be a weekly occurrence as long as the price of the card wasn't unreasonable. This included Team of the Week LTDs, Rainbow LTDs, and more frequently, Ultimate Legend LTDs. When it comes to what I look for in an LTD as an investment, here's a ranking of my positional confidence related to LTDs. You'll notice that positions that only play 1 or max of 2 on the field at any point are down at the bottom, being quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends. This is because 1, well, quarterbacks and running backs drop every day in Madden, but 2, if only one of that position is required on your team at any point, it only takes one of that card at that position to release, making your investment drop as a result. Meanwhile, O-line, while similar to that, needing only one player at that position, O-linemen are typically not dropped frequently as a repeated position, except for centers, because EA for some reason this year loved centers. DBs, linebackers, and wide receivers are the safest investments typically. No Kadarius Toney, however, because you need multiple of that position in your lineup, so if EA tries to mess up your investment by releasing another cornerback, for example, it doesn't matter because you need multiple cornerbacks in your team. Another factor when determining if I want to make a player as an investment is going to be the stats, the theme teams, the price, all the factors that make a card's demand, but we'll go more into detail about demand for player upgrades when it really matters down the line. Either way you look at it, LTD investments are almost guaranteed profit unless an outside variable interferes with the demand of your card. The worst LTD investment this year, and there's very few, started with DeAndre Swift. His being Bo-Nose Barry Sanders was announced one day after he went out of packs with better stats at a cheaper price. Evan Ingram LTD, same kind of situation, this time the LTD being Kyle Pitts, and I actually made a personal mistake by panic selling, where if I just waited a day or two after the news broke of Kyle Pitts dropping, I could have made my money back after tax. The last one being Kadarius Toney, of course, with his price crashing because of Randy Moss and Devontae Adams wide receiver free agency dropping in the exact same week or the week after Kadarius Toney was in packs. And then, of course, I'm not going to talk about Amani and Gesicki LTD. That's completely on EA, even though I did lose around 3 to 4 million of them off the 150 coin glitch via Xbox. Big shout out to EA on that one. Pretty much all other LTD investments were profitable unless I'm forgetting some, with the best being Minkah Fitzpatrick, Robbie Anderson, Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, and Team of the Week LTD Will Fuller. To summarize LTD investing in a few short sentences, always buy on the final day of the card being out, typically in the afternoon or nighttime. Sell time varies, but I prefer to sell 48 to 72 hours after the card is out of packs in order to get the coins back without risking a potential drop of the card in the same position as your LTD investment, like we saw with Kyle Pitts and Evan Ingram and DeAndre Swift and Barry Sanders. And then I don't really like reroll LTDs except for the select few. And of course, you need to pray that EA doesn't drop a better player than your investment at the same position right after you buy them. And finally, we have my favorite type of investing, player upgrade investing, meaning buying the pieces that needed to go into the power up. Before we continue any further, you must know, and I hate saying this because people ask me how I make my coins. I say investing, then they go, I got 500K, who should I buy? But you should not be investing with less than 5 mil. If you ask other people who also invest in my Discord, they'll say 10 mil. Why is this though? I'm gonna give you a situation. Bobby here has 1 million coins. He decides to invest in a future promo that is about a week away. He buys 5 different players, 2 of each for 100,000 coins. Tommy, on the other hand, has 10 million coins and buys the same 5 players, but he can buy 20 of them, again, each at 100K. The promo reveal rolls around and one of the 5 players they both invested in hits and their card goes to 250K, giving you 125K profit after tax per card. Bobby is going to make 250K after 7 days of waiting. Meanwhile, Tommy makes 2.5 mil after the 7 days. Now, Bobby isn't investing the wrong way. He just doesn't have the assets that Tommy does. In those 7 days, Bobby waited to make 250K. He could have been doing team builder sets, team of the year sets, gap packs, and made way more in a week's time than 250K. And then, of course, Tommy in those 7 days probably could not. Now, he might have been able to make 2.5 mil off those sets, but realistically, it wouldn't have been worth his time, which is why I say investing shouldn't be started until you have a significant bankroll to where the payout is worth the wait. Back to upgrade investing though, which is probably my main source of profit when I went from 10 mil to 100 mil. Let's start first with the buying aspect of upgrade investing and figuring out which players to buy. Firstly, we only invest in player cards that are non-set cards. What do I mean by this? We want to invest in cards that can't be acquired by doing a set for that specific card. Because when that player, for example, Randy Moss, gets an upgrade, everyone can go and complete the Randy Moss Most Feared set. And unless the entire Most Feared market rises, I'm talking the golds, the low elites, since there's always a way to exchange them up in overalls, Randy Moss Most Feared will not be able to rise in price. Now, sometimes set cards do go up in price, and that is a result of the player's demand being so high the actual supply does not match the demand. We saw this for the likes of Jalen Ramsey's 92 card when this MCS card dropped, Deion Sanders when he got that GG2 champion, as well as most recently, Most Feared DK Metcalf. By the way, and I know this might sound a little bit confusing, but this doesn't apply to Team of the Week sets, Legend sets, and Bo-Nose sets, as to complete their set, you need specific players which can easily shoot up in price rather than a Zero Chill 93, which requires a base number of overalls in the Zero Chill program that can be easily acquired via exchange set. What I mean by this is when a Team of the Week player gets an upgrade, for example, their Team of the Week set only will have 3 specific players that are required within the set, and those 3 players are a lot easier to rise in price rather than an entire program like Most Feared or Harvest needing to rise for that champion player to rise in price with them. What we want when we're upgrade investing is the type of cards with no direct way to get them. This is going to be your Reduxes, your Core Elites, and my personal favorite, the Bo-Nose cards. Here is a list of cards I prefer to invest in and a list of cards I don't prefer to invest in, but the names on the top of the list in the top left being the cards I like to invest in the most. Taking a look at this list, you'll notice again, Bo-Nose, Reduxes in the top left, because the only way you will Bo-Nose cards, for example, you actually can't even pack, you have to do the set. but a lot of people don't take the time out of their way to do the 95 or 94 overall bone nose sets, where the Redux cards are just super rare to pull. Speaking of demand, a word I've probably used quite a lot throughout this video, what is demand when it comes to a Madden card? Demand, in my opinion, is a checklist of certain qualities or attributes a card has, which altogether give a card its demand. Here's a list of boxes to check off when trying to calculate how much demand a player card will have when it comes to Madden. You'll notice the list: price, card stats, theme teams, the current state of the market being, hey, is the market low? Is the market high? Are people willing to buy players for their team? You'll notice supply, popularity, guys like Lamar Jackson, Julio Jones with big names. All these factors contribute to how much demand a player has. However, some of these factors can't be predicted like others. Pricing, on one hand, depends entirely on how the card is released into the game. We preferably want the card to be a set champion, that way we know the price is going to be reasonable for the common MUT player to afford. The worst outcome for pricing circumstances would be a player gets a low overall or an LTD, because price is the single most biggest determining factor when it comes to a card's demand. A perfect recent example of this would be Calvin Johnson and Jerry Rice. Calvin Johnson gets a Sugar Rush champion. His upgrade goes for 250k because it's affordable, and it forces the Bone Nose 95 to go up from 105k to 225. Meanwhile, Jerry Rice gets an LTD that goes for 1 million coins, and his team of the week does not move at all. Both of these cards are at the top of the food chain when it comes to wide receivers, but one card is 250k while the other is 1 mil, so Calvin Johnson is then, let's say, bought 10 times more than Jerry Rice, meaning his 95 overall Bone Nose is needed in the power-up sequence 10 times as many times as that team of the week Jerry Rice. Yeah, all that is cool, but in reality, we actually have no control over that outcome, as it is completely up to EA. So what can we control? Well, one of them is we can predict how good a card will be when they get an upgrade. Obviously, if Derrick Henry gets an upgrade, his card will be better statted with more demand than an Aaron Jones upgrade. Another example of this could be positional competition. Darren Waller, for example, gets an upgrade. His new card will most likely be the new best tight end in the game, as opposed to a Stephon Diggs, where even if he gets an upgrade, it's highly unlikely that he's a top 5 or even top 3 receiver in the game, especially with all the big name receivers we get every single year. Now, all this mumbo jumbo is great, but we need to try to piece this all together, so whenever you go to buy a player as an upgrade investment, a multitude of factors should be going into your thought process when deciding to invest in a player. Can this card be acquired through a set? If this card gets an upgrade, will his stats be good enough to be a top player at his position? How likely does this player get an upgrade? Of course, this comes into the correlation with the future promos. Most importantly, if this player gets an upgrade, will people want to power up their card? But that is only one part of the buying process, being deciding what card to invest in. The other side is, when do I invest in a card? And this part is more related to when the training market is down, as training is the single biggest determining factor in when the market is very cheap. No demand for training? Okay, then every card that isn't bought for gameplay purposes will drop in price closer to training value, as their only use is solely for quick selling for training points. And there's no magic days to buy investments. I mean, maybe Saturdays or Fridays when packs are open the most, but it's more so a wait and react process. Some examples of this being Christmas Day, the January market crash leading up to Team of the Year, MUT rewards or odd boost days, that random Wednesday when the theme team packs at the store. So you can see the buying process is more of a reactionary action, rather than you can't set days when you plan on buying investments. And when those days do roll around when the market is in shambles, my biggest advice is to go all out. Those few hours that you are buying investments will literally set you up for weeks and weeks. The past month of investments hitting, like Calvin Johnson, Ty Law, for example, all were bought during that one Wednesday back in early March when the theme team packs hit the store. Investing is a super time saver, as when the market is not in its perfect state of chaos, we really aren't participating. But man, when the market is in utter shambles, you better sit up in your chair, buying for a few hours like a bear going into hibernation, as this will set you up for future months. And as long as you buy your investments when the market is at its absolute lowest, no investment will really ever lose you coins, as the natural rebound of a low market will act as an insurance for when your investments don't hit and you have to eat those tax losses. Now that we've gone through the buying process, and don't worry, I'll show you examples eventually, now we get into the selling process, which in my opinion is 20 times harder than buying. Selling is all determined on how the card is released into the game, as we talked about in the buying process. If it's an LTD, an expensive one at that, I will usually sell their investments. I also, by the way, call them the baby pieces, as quickly as possible after their reveal. I do this because LTDs are super expensive and will not be powered up as often because of their price. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is the worst investment hit is an LTD. A reroll LTD though is more determined on how expensive the card will be once it gets released, which can be very, very difficult to predict. An example of that being the recent Sugar Rush LTDs, which I thought would be super cheap because the amount of rolls expected to be rolled when it came to people wanting to convert training into candy. However, they were super rare, and Corley Jalen Ramsey, one of my biggest investments for the time being, was about at 90k the night prior for him to actually be put into the game. I didn't sell, and he went all the way down to 50k as a result to Jalen Ramsey's LTD being quite expensive. On the other side, if a player gets an upgrade within a program, usually a set champion, a hero, I typically wait until the card is released into the actual game rather than the day it gets revealed on Twitter. This is because a lot of the Madden community won't realize someone is getting a card until they are put into the game, as perhaps they aren't as active as us on the social media side of Madden. This patience has made me so many extra coins. Also, waiting until the initial flood of listings is another reason we wait until the afternoon on release day to garner that extra profit and not have to worry about the undercutting battles in the AM. Some of the best examples of this include Derrick Henry Core Elite during Gridiron Guardians 2, as well as Devontae Adams Core Elite during free agency. This also includes pretty much all bow nose players, the best ones being Calvin and Ty Law being 185k on reveal and 225k in the afternoon of the release, and a lot of Redux players like Evan Ingram, for example, who I didn't invest in, but was a great example of patience, being 300 to 400k on the reveal night and upwards of 600 700k on release day. Now that I've shown you guys what goes into the buying and selling process of player upgrade investments, let's take a trip down memory lane and look back at some of our most successful and failed investments. Let's though get the ugly failures out of the way, but failures meaning cards that hit but their prices didn't go up. The first and most famous of mine being Core Elite Aaron Donald and DK Metcalf during Most Feared. These gentlemen happened to be the first ever victim of over investing, and also were the first ever sort of Discord investment, which made it hilarious to look back on. I ended up probably losing around 1 mil off Aaron Donald and DK Metcalf back in October, which again, back then was a lot of coins. The great thing though about investing is there's always a cause and an effect when it comes to these cards. You'll rarely be left confused or in the dark about why a player didn't really go up in price. Now the list of successful investments, and it's quite a long list, but I'll narrow it down to 4 to 5-ish where I talk about the reasoning behind these investments with the profit numbers once they hit. First up, we've got that bow-nosed Calvin Johnson and Ty Law. I mainly bought them when they were the theme team packs back in early March. Calvin Johnson was bought at an average of 115k, Ty Law being 90k. I bought 48 Calvin Johnsons and 45 Ty Laws. The reason though for going all out was because at the time when the theme team packs were out, the players that I bought, Calvin Johnson and Ty Law being two of those, were at a super discount, being 180k for Calvin the week prior and Ty Law 165k. This circles back to my concept of going all out when the market is in shambles, as you just have to put in the hours for that one day rather than every day for weeks. Fast forward to Sugar Rush, where both Calvin and Ty Law get upgrades, and both of their investments have similar paths. On reveal, both of them went to 185k, and then on release, I sold the majority of them both for around the 225k mark, once again going back to the point of patience when selling. As you can see, the teaching points are finally coming full circle, but I don't feel the need to boast, as the profits were a solid multi-million coin profit gain, course after tax. Next up is another bow-nose investment. I think the single greatest return on an investment the entire year, that being Randall Cunningham. I had bought about 12 at the same time as Calvin Johnson and Ty Law on that theme team Wednesday for about an average of 75,000 coins. A week or two later, Randall Cunningham free agency drops as a training store offer with all 32 chems, which of course was music to my ears. Super affordable, a meta player in all 32 team chems, which made 94 Randall Cunningham go from 75k to 325k, and well, I made some solid virtual Madden coin profit. Core Elite Denzel Ward is up next, one of my first investments Core Elite wise to truly smack all the way back in November. I can't remember the exact date at which I bought them, but he was one of my favorite harvest investments, as a week or two prior he had a pick 6 but didn't get a card, which made even more sense for him to get a harvest upgrade. However, he didn't even get a champion. The crazy thing is he got a 92 hero, but it was a great card at that, making his Core Elite go from 5k to 45k, in which I had about 10 to 15 of them. And for the last example of player upgrade investments, I'm going to group the entire Team of the Year investments into one. When Team of the Year nominees were dropped all the way back in January, we really didn't know how the ballots would work or even if the ballots mattered. But we bought the most popular players around the same time that we had bought our training team of the year investment back in mid-January, kind of tying together that whenever training is the lowest, the market in terms of investments are the lowest. This included players like Redux Darren Waller, Redux Myles Garrett, Rising Star Justin Jefferson, Redux Justin Herbert, and many, many others. I'd say about 75% of our investments for Team of the Years hit, combined with the training rise due to Team of the Year rerolls. I went from an estimated amount about 50 million coins all the way up to 75 mil. Now, I don't know the exact math on those numbers because, like I said, I was 50 million coins deep into Team of the Year investing. Even after I sold most of my Team of the Year investments, I still had LTD investments, Super Bowl investments, so I never really truly figured out how many coins I made strictly off the Team of the Year investments. But I mean, for example, Darren Waller Redux went from 80k to 130, which I had 25 of. Herbert, 100k to 175. JJ, 45k to 115. Myles Garrett, 100 to 150. And almost every single player who got a Team of the Year card I was invested in and had probably accumulated about 20 or so of those cards in the weeks leading up to the Team of the Year reveal. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I don't really know how we're gonna end that. Investing was really how I made or how I went from 10 mil to 100 mil. Player upgrade investing being my favorite. If anyone's ever curious as to why I did it, my answer to that can best be described as my Twitch channel and my YouTube channel. I felt one of the best ways of advertising or getting my name out there in the Madden community was by having a large coin stack to where it could be in a lot of my titles and my streams or videos. I mean, who isn't curious when they see a 65 mil no money spent title on Twitch? It was a way of validation for anyone to find a reason to click on my channel and videos over someone else. Another reason why I was able to build my coin stack, or why I built my coin stack, was just simply my channel, which was predicated on market content. So if I'm gonna be making videos on the best way to make coins, I'm gonna have to do the research and find out regardless of my coin stack. So getting to 100 mil just happened to be a benefit of making market videos for YouTube and Twitch. I never even really wanted to make 100 mil. I'm not obsessed with making virtual Madden coins that are relevant in 3 months. This is just the result of someone who normally plays Madden for 2 to 3 months, instead played it for 6 to 7 months with the motivation to continuously help players make coins for themselves. So with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed not only this video, but my content the entire year. Comment if you have any questions, like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, peace.